Real English for your daily life.
Master English together.
Monday morning, you open your laptop, the to-do list is full, and you feel absolutely nothing.
Not sick, not burned out, just empty. Like you're watching someone else live your work life.
If that hit a little too close, you're in the right place. This is Everyday English Podcast, and I'm Sara.
And I'm Noah. This is a B1 level episode, perfect for intermediate learners. And if you're a beginner, don't worry, you're welcome here too.
Today's topic is one we don't talk about enough. It's not about quitting your job. It's not about following your passion. It's about something much more practical and honestly, much more powerful.
We're talking about why so many people feel like their work just doesn't fit, not because they're lazy, not because they're too picky, but because the shape of their job doesn't match who they actually are.
And there's one thing we discovered while researching this episode that completely changed how we think about work. We'll get to that. But first,
quick question. Think about your Monday morning. Which one is you? A. You wake up and think, okay, let's do this. Or B. You wake up and think, is it Friday yet?
Drop an A or a B in the comments. We genuinely want to know.
And honestly, if you said B, this episode was made for you.
We're going to talk about a real psychological theory, one developed at Yale, that explains why good people in decent jobs still feel completely drained, and more importantly, what you can actually do about it.
No dramatic career changes. No quit everything and travel advice. Just two small practical steps that researchers say can shift how meaningful your work feels without changing your job title.
Stay with us until the end for our word tour. 5 expressions that'll help you talk about work, motivation, and identity in natural, fluent English.
And right now, I'm guessing you're either commuting, doing dishes, or pretending to work while listening to us.
Totally valid. All of the above, honestly.
And later, we'll give you one tiny mindset shift that takes less than 10 minutes. But first, let's get into the story.
Okay, so let me tell you about a friend of mine. Let's call her May. She got a job at a marketing firm right out of university. Good salary, stable hours, nice colleagues.
Sounds like the dream, right?
That's what everyone told her. Her parents were proud. Her friends were jealous. And May smiled and said, "Yeah, I'm really lucky." But every Sunday night, she'd sit on her couch and feel this slow, heavy feeling creeping in.
That Sunday dread. It's so real.
She wasn't unhappy exactly. She just felt like she was going through the motions. Wake up, commute, open emails, attend meetings, go home, repeat. Nothing was wrong, but nothing felt right either.
And the worst part about that feeling is, there's nothing obvious to fix. You can't point at one thing and say that's the problem. It's more like a fog.
Exactly. And May started doing what a lot of us do. She started Googling how to find your passion. Signs you're in the wrong career. Should I quit my job? She read article after article, and every single one made her feel either more confused or more guilty.
The just follow your passion advice is honestly one of the most unhelpful things ever written on the internet.
Right? Because passion doesn't just appear, and quitting isn't always an option. May had rent to pay. She had student loans. She couldn't just walk away.
So what did she actually do?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. A colleague of hers, someone who'd been at the same company for 8 years, seemed genuinely happy, not fake happy, actually engaged, curious, energized.
And May noticed that.
She did, and she asked him one day, "How are you still so into this job after 8 years?" And he said something that stopped her completely. He said, "I don't do the same job as you. We have the same title, but I've shaped mine into something that actually fits me."
Whoa, same title, different job.
That's the key insight, and it connects directly to what psychologists call job crafting, a theory developed by Amy Wrzesniewski at Yale University. The idea is that your job description is just a starting point. What you actually do with it, the tasks you lean into, the relationships you build, the meaning you attach to your work, that's something you have more control over than you think.
So it's not about changing your job, it's about changing your relationship with your job.
Exactly, and research shows that people who actively craft their work, even in small ways, report feeling significantly more engaged and more like their work is actually meaningful to them.
That word, meaningful, it keeps coming up in this research, doesn't it?
It does, because that's what people are really hungry for, not just a paycheck, not just stability. They want to feel like what they do matters to someone, somehow.
And when that's missing, everything starts to drain you. Even tasks that aren't objectively hard just feel exhausting.
Yes, and that's the thing about May's situation. Her job wasn't terrible, but because nothing in it connected to what she actually cared about, every single task felt like it was pulling energy out of her. It was a slow drain, day after day.
It's like, you know when your phone is on low battery mode? You can still use it, but everything is slower, dimmer, less responsive.
That is such a perfect image. That's exactly what it feels like. You're functioning, but you're running on 12%.
And nobody around you can see it. You look fine, you're showing up, you're hitting your deadlines, but inside you're just depleted.
And here's what made May's story shift. Her colleague didn't tell her to quit. He didn't tell her to find her passion. He asked her one question. What's the one part of your week that doesn't feel like work?
And what did she say?
She thought about it for a long time, and then she said, the onboarding calls. When we get a new client and I walk them through everything for the first time, I actually like that.
Just that one thing.
Just that one thing. And her colleague said, then find a way to do more of that. Not a career change, not a new job, just more of the one thing that didn't drain her.
That sounds almost too simple. But I think that's the point, isn't it? We're so used to thinking that fixing work means a big dramatic change, but sometimes it starts with something tiny.
And that's exactly what the research supports. Wrzesniewski's studies found that even small adjustments, spending 15 more minutes on a task you find energizing, or reframing why a boring task matters, can meaningfully shift how you feel about your entire job.
Reframe. That's such an important word here. It's not about pretending everything is great. It's about finding a different angle to look at the same thing.
Right. And we'll come back to that word, reframe, because it's one of our 5 vocabulary words today. But the idea is this. May didn't need a new job. She needed ownership over the small choices within her existing job.
Ownership. Another one of our words. And it's interesting, because ownership isn't about being the boss. It's about feeling like you have some say in how your work takes shape.
Exactly. And when May started doing more onboarding calls, even just a few extra per month, something shifted. She started caring more. She started preparing more. She started feeling like her work was actually connected to something real.
Because she wasn't just going through the motions anymore. She had a reason to show up differently.
And that's the thing about going through the motions. It's not laziness. It's disconnection. When your work doesn't connect to anything you value, your brain basically goes into autopilot. You do the minimum, you survive the day, but you never actually arrive.
And I think so many people blame themselves for that. They think I must be the problem. I'm not motivated enough. I'm not disciplined enough.
But the research says otherwise. The problem isn't the person, the problem is the fit. And fit is something you can actually work on.
And by the way, there's a specific phrase for what May's colleague was describing. It's called job crafting. We'll break it down properly later in our word tour. But keep that phrase in mind as we move forward.
Because next we're going to talk about what you can actually do. 2 small, practical steps that don't require a new resume or a difficult conversation with your boss.
No resignation letter required.
Not today anyway. So let's talk about what you can actually do. Because I know some of you are thinking, okay, this sounds nice in theory, but my job is genuinely rigid. I don't have the freedom to just reshape things.
And that's a fair concern. But here's what the research actually recommends. 2 steps. Small ones. The first is called a task audit.
A task audit. Here's how it works. You take 10 minutes, just 10, and you list every task you did this week. Every single one. Then next to each one, you write either a check mark, this gives me energy, or an X, this drains me.
And then you look at the check marks, even if there's only 1 or 2. And you ask yourself, how do I do 15 more minutes of this next week?
Not an hour more. Not a complete restructure. Just 15 minutes. That's the whole step.
But wait, I want to push back on this a little. Because 15 minutes sounds almost insultingly small. Like if someone's genuinely miserable at work, is moving 15 minutes of tasks really going to change anything?
That's actually a really important question. And I think the honest answer is no, 15 minutes alone won't fix a broken work environment. But that's not what this is claiming to do.
So what is it claiming to do?
It's about momentum. When you identify even one thing that doesn't drain you and you deliberately do more of it, you start to feel like you have some agency, some ownership over your day. And that feeling of ownership changes how you approach everything else.
But here's my concern. What if the thing that gives you energy isn't actually part of your job description? What if your checkmark task is something your manager never even asked you to do?
Then that's actually valuable information, because job crafting isn't just about tasks. It's also about relationships and meaning. If the task itself can't change, maybe the way you connect with people around that task can. Or maybe the meaning you attach to it can shift.
Okay, and I'm going to keep pushing here. Isn't reframe the meaning just a fancy way of saying tell yourself a story so you feel better about something that's still bad?
I hear that, and I think it's a legitimate worry, but there's a difference between denial and reframing. Denial is saying this is fine when it isn't. Reframing is asking who does this actually help and finding a real answer.
Give me an example.
Okay, say you spend 2 hours every week updating a spreadsheet that feels completely pointless, pure going through the motions. But if you ask, who uses this data? Maybe you find out it goes to a team that makes decisions about employee benefits. Suddenly, that spreadsheet isn't pointless. It's connected to something real.
So you're not pretending the task is exciting. You're just locating it in a bigger picture.
Exactly. And research from Wrzesniewski's lab shows that this simple act, asking who does this help, and writing the answer down, can measurably increase work engagement within 2 weeks. Not because the task changed, because the meaning did.
But here's my last pushback. What about people whose jobs are genuinely harmful to them? Toxic managers, impossible workloads, no psychological safety. Are we telling those people to just reframe their way through it?
No, absolutely not. And this is really important to say clearly. Job crafting is not a substitute for addressing structural problems. If your workplace is toxic, that needs to be named and dealt with. What we're talking about today is for people who are in a decent situation but feel that quiet, nagging disconnection. The fog, not the fire.
Okay, that's a meaningful distinction. The fog versus the fire. I like that.
And most people listening right now are probably in the fog, not in crisis, just not quite alive at work. And for those people, these two steps, the task audit and the meaning reframe, are genuinely worth trying.
Because the alternative is just continuing to go through the motions. And that slow drain adds up. Over months, over years. It costs you more than you realize.
So if you take nothing else from today, take this. You don't need to quit. You don't need a perfect job. You just need to find one small thing that feels meaningful and protect it.
And if you want to go deeper on this, stick around. Because our word tour is coming up. And we've got 5 expressions that'll help you actually talk about all of this in English.
If this episode is resonating with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the most meaningful thing you can do is pass something useful along.
Okay, so we've talked about the fog, the drain, and 2 small steps to start feeling more connected to your work.
And now it's time for something we know you've been waiting for, our word tour.
5 expressions, all from today's conversation. And trust me, these are words you'll actually use.
Drain, meaningful. Reframe, go through the motions. Ownership.
Let's break them down, one by one.
All right, let's look at the actual words we used today. And I want to start with drain, because this one came up so much in May's story.
Yeah, drain is such a useful word. It's a verb. When something drains you, it slowly takes your energy away, like water draining out of a bathtub.
Exactly, and we use it all the time to talk about emotional or mental exhaustion. That meeting drained me. Dealing with difficult clients really drains my energy.
It's not sudden. It's gradual. That's the key part of the meaning.
Right, and the opposite of drain is something that gives you energy, which brings us perfectly to our next word, meaningful.
Meaningful. This is an adjective. When something is meaningful, it has significance. It matters to you personally.
And we talked about how people aren't just looking for a paycheck. They want their work to feel meaningful. They want it to connect to something bigger.
You can say a meaningful conversation, a meaningful relationship, or like we said today, meaningful work.
And here's the thing, what's meaningful to you might not be meaningful to someone else. It's personal.
Which is why you can't just copy someone else's career path and expect to feel fulfilled.
Exactly. Now, the third word, and this one's really powerful, reframe.
Reframe. This is a verb. When you reframe something, you look at it from a different angle. You change the frame around the picture.
So if you have a boring task, like updating a spreadsheet, you can reframe it by asking, who does this help? Suddenly, it's not just data entry. It's supporting a team that makes real decisions.
The task didn't change, but the way you see it did. That's reframing.
And this isn't about lying to yourself. It's about finding a perspective that's both true and more helpful.
You can reframe a problem, a situation, even a relationship. It's about shifting your mental lens.
Now the fourth expression, and this one's a phrase, go through the motions.
Go through the motions. This means you're doing something without really caring. You're just performing the actions mechanically.
Like when May was showing up to work every day, doing her tasks, but not actually feeling present. She was going through the motions.
And you can use this in so many contexts. I'm just going through the motions in this relationship. He's going through the motions at the gym, but not really trying.
It's that autopilot feeling. You're there physically, but mentally and emotionally, you've checked out.
And it's exhausting in its own way, because you're expending effort without getting any real satisfaction back.
Which brings us to our final word, ownership.
Ownership. This is a noun, and in the context of work, it doesn't mean you literally own the company. It means you feel like you have some control, some say in how things go.
When you have ownership over your work, you're not just following orders, you're making choices. You're shaping how the work gets done.
And that feeling of ownership is what makes the difference between going through the motions and actually being engaged.
You can say, I want more ownership over my projects, or she took ownership of the problem and fixed it.
It's about agency, about feeling like your actions matter.
And here's the beautiful thing. Even if you can't change your job title, you can still increase your sense of ownership by making small choices about how you approach your work.
Like choosing to do 15 more minutes of something that doesn't drain you.
Exactly. Small ownership. But it adds up.
So those are our 5 words. Drain, meaningful, reframe, go through the motions, ownership.
And if you noticed, we didn't just teach these words, we use them naturally throughout the whole episode.
Because that's how language actually works. You absorb it in context, not from a list.
So here's what we covered today. You're not lazy, you're not broken. You might just be in a job that doesn't fit the shape of who you are.
And the good news is, you don't have to quit to fix that. You just need 2 small steps. First, the task audit. 10 minutes. List your tasks, mark what gives you energy and what drains you. Then find a way to do 15 more minutes of the good stuff next week.
And second, the meaning reframe. Pick one task that feels pointless. Ask yourself, who does this actually help? Write the answer down. Put it somewhere you can see it.
That's it. No dramatic changes. No risky decisions. Just 2 small acts of ownership over your own work life.
And I want to say something personal here. I've had periods where I was just going through the motions too. Showing up, doing the work, but feeling completely disconnected. And what helped wasn't a new job. It was finding one small thing that felt meaningful and protecting it fiercely.
That's such a real thing. Sometimes the most radical act is just deciding that your energy matters, that what drains you is worth paying attention to.
And if today's episode sparked something for you, we'd love to hear about it. Before you go, tell us in the comments, what's one task in your week that actually gives you energy? Even a small one.
We read every single comment. And sometimes your answers inspire our next episode. So don't hold back.
Next time, we're going to talk about something closely related. Why saying no at work feels so hard, and what it's actually costing you. You won't want to miss it.
Thanks for spending this time with us. Keep crafting your work. Keep protecting your energy. And we'll see you next episode.
Bye for now.
Take care, everyone.